Oscar had never imagined that fixing a malfunctioning hyperdrive would lead him here. Standing frozen in the doorway of what appeared to be some kind of ceremonial chamber aboard the Zenithian station, face to face with at least 30 alien women whose luminescent eyes were now locked onto him with an intensity that made his heart hammer against his ribs. "Wrong room," he muttered, taking a step backward. "Definitely the wrong room." But the door had already sealed behind him with a soft hiss that sounded almost mocking. The chamber was bathed in violet light, with crystalline pillars rising toward a domed ceiling that displayed what looked like constellations from a dozen different star systems. The women, tall, ethereal beings with skin that shimmered between silver and pale blue, stood in a perfect circle around a central platform. They wore flowing robes that seemed to be woven from starlight itself, and their hair moved as though suspended in water, defying the station's artificial gravity. One of them stepped forward. She was perhaps the tallest, with eyes that burned like twin supernovas and facial markings that glowed with a soft amber light. "You are human," she said, her voice carrying a melodic quality that made the translator chip in Oscar's ear struggle to keep up. "Guilty as charged," Oscar said, raising his hands in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "Look, I'm just the mechanic from the Wanderer's Hope. I was following the service conduits to reach the hyperdrive relay, and I must have taken a wrong turn at—" "Male," another voice interrupted. A younger woman with violet-tinted skin moved closer, tilting her head as she studied him like he was a specimen under laboratory glass. "A human male." The records were accurate, someone else murmured. "Fascinating." Oscar felt dozens of eyes scanning him from head to toe. He'd never felt more self-conscious in his grease-stained jumpsuit and scuffed work boots. "Okay, this is getting weird. If someone could just point me toward the exit—" "There is no exit," the tall woman said firmly. "You have entered the chamber of first witness during the celestial alignment. The doors will not open until the ritual is complete." "Ritual?" Oscar's voice cracked slightly. "What kind of ritual?" "We are the daughters of Zenith," she explained, moving with a grace that seemed to defy physics. "We have traveled from our homeworld for this sacred gathering, a meditation on the mysteries of the cosmos and the diversity of sentient life. For generations, we have studied other species through holographic records and transmitted data." She paused, her expression softening. "But we have never encountered a human male in person." Another woman emerged from the circle, this one with silver hair that cascaded past her shoulders and eyes the color of Earth's oceans, though Oscar doubted she'd ever seen Earth. "Our world is matriarchal," she said. "Males exist, but they remain in the sanctuary cities. They are—" she searched for the word. "Sheltered, protected. We are raised to be explorers, scientists, warriors. We venture into the galaxy while they maintain our civilization." "So you've never actually met a guy before?" Oscar asked, beginning to understand. "Any guy?" "We have seen males of our own species, of course," the tall leader clarified. "But encountering males of other species, particularly humans, is exceedingly rare in our corner of the galaxy. Your kind seldom travels this far into the outer reaches." A younger Zenithian woman, who couldn't have been much older than 20 in human years, raised her hand tentatively. "Is it true that human males grow facial hair?" Oscar rubbed his stubbled chin self-consciously. Yeah, some of us do." A ripple of fascination moved through the group. "And you navigate starships?" another asked. "Well, I mostly fix them, but yeah, I can pilot if needed." "Remarkable," someone whispered. The leader, whose name Oscar learned was Orla when another woman addressed her, raised her hand for silence. "Forgive us, human. We do not mean to make you uncomfortable. It is simply that our education has been theoretical. To have you here in our presence is—" She smiled, and it transformed her face from austere to almost warm. Unexpected, educational, perhaps even serendipitous. Oscar felt himself relaxing slightly. They weren't threatening, just curious, incredibly overwhelmingly curious. "My name's Oscar," he offered. "Oscar Reeves, engineer 3rd class." "Oscar?" Orla repeated, as though testing the sound. "Tell me, Oscar Reeves, what brings your vessel to Zenithian space?" For the next hour, or what felt like an hour, time seemed strange in that violet-lit chamber, Oscar found himself at the center of the most unusual conversation of his life. The Zenithian women asked him everything. About Earth, about human society, about the places he'd traveled and the things he'd seen. They wanted to know about human customs, technology, art, music. A woman named Lyra asked about human emotions. Another, Callista, questioned him about Earth's oceans, which she'd studied through long-range spectroscopy, but never seen. A third wanted to know if it was true that humans formed pair bonds across gender lines, a concept that seemed to fascinate and perplex them in equal measure. Oscar answered as best he could, growing more comfortable as he realized they weren't judging. They were genuinely, authentically interested. These were scientists, philosophers, seekers of knowledge who'd spent their lives exploring the cosmos and were now presented with a living, breathing mystery they'd only encountered in data streams and archived footage. "You're not what I expected," Orla admitted during a lull in the questions. "The records portrayed human males as aggressive, domineering, prone to violence." Oscar winced. "Yeah, we've got a bit of a reputation. Not entirely unearned, if I'm being honest. But we're not all like that. Some of us just want to fix broken things and maybe see a few stars along the way." She nodded slowly. "Perhaps the records show only part of the truth. Perhaps they show only what your species was, not what it could become." A soft chime echoed through the chamber, and the constellations on the ceiling shifted, aligning into a new pattern. Orla looked up, then back at Oscar. "The celestial alignment has completed. The doors will open now." As if on cue, the door behind Oscar hissed open. Cool air rushed in from the corridor beyond. "You're free to go," Orla said, "and please accept our apologies for the unconventional nature of this encounter." Oscar turned toward the exit, then paused. "You know what? This was actually pretty cool. Weird as hell, but cool." He grinned. "If you ever want a human perspective on anything else, I'm on the station for another 3 days. Docking Bay 7. Orla's eyes brightened. "We would like that very much, Oscar Reeves." As Oscar stepped through the doorway and back into the familiar industrial corridors of the station, he heard the murmur of excited voices behind him. He smiled to himself, shaking his head. He'd come to fix a hyperdrive. Instead, he'd accidentally become humanity's most unlikely ambassador. Not bad for a Tuesday.